There's no room in Worf's heart for shame. Kalis eventually found his father's sword, and the Klingon hunt is a ritual that reminds them where they came from. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 17, Birthright, Part 2, written by Renee Echevarria, directed by the Dan Curry. This was February 27th, 1993. Where were you? And you guys, you will not believe it. We have the superhuman, the legendary, the iconic Dan Curry with us. How you doing today, Dan?
Biologically functioning.
Very good. Very good.
That's really good to have you. By the way, I stumbled a little on the date because I saw it on Paramount Plus. It said March 1st, 93. On IMDb, it said February 27th, 93. So I went with IMDb. Anyway, thank you so much.
Choice.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us, Dan. This is such a thrill. We've had you on before to talk about your VFX mastery, your art department mastery, your storyboards that are legendary, you know, for the Borg cube, for the interiors, for explosions, so many things. But in this one glorious episode, you were the director. How did that come about, please?
Well, I asked Rick Berman if I could direct an episode because I'd been directing Second Unit for a while, and they let me direct one. And interestingly enough, all directors get a tone meeting, but they forgot to give me a tone meeting, so I had no idea what the producers really wanted. And Rick Colby directed part one, and Rick and I chatted a little bit about it, but they were different enough that they were not totally related. And it was a wonderful experience, and especially working with Michael Dorn, who made it as easy as possible by being super cooperative and instantly understood what I was trying to accomplish. And looking back at it, there were so many things I wish I'd done differently, but that is the nature of any artist. They never really like their own work.
So, Dan, first off, it's good to see you. Always a pleasure to be in your company. I wanted to ask you just a little clarification. They approached you to direct this episode, or did you approach them and say, I want to direct an episode?
I wanted to direct an episode, and they granted that. And that was the episode I was randomly assigned to. And it was interesting because it was not a visual effects episode. It was a character.
Yeah, see, but I didn't think it was that random. I mean, this was just a guess on my part that apparently is not right. But I was like, oh, perfect. Dan Curry is good friends with Michael Dorn. He designed all these Klingon weaponry, so many things. Of course they want him for the Klingon episode, but you think it was random, or do you think there was a little something in there?
I don't know. I couldn't describe their mental machinations in selecting that one. I had always assumed it was random.
Dan, how big is, because one of the things, a lot of this is filmed on that camp, that prison camp set, and it was pretty elaborate. I thought it was, well done as far as feeling big and elaborate and just architecture, not usually what we see. So they did a number on the set design. I thought it was well done. Can you talk about that set design, how big of a space it has? I saw that when he jumped over the edge of the wall of it, it seemed like it was way up there.
It was a big set. And it filled up stage 16. We had the prison camp set and the jungle set.
Right.
And the one regret I have about the jungle set is realized I should have asked it to be filled with fog, so it was more mysterious.
Interesting.
And and speaking of that leads me to my next question, which is, you mentioned talking to Rick Colby about the episode prior to this one. And one thing that stood out to me as a visually was the lighting being a lot brighter in this second parter. Was that something that you wanted more lighting, or did they give you any notes about, matching the darkness or not matching it to the previous episode? I did feel like it was brighter. I don't know if anyone else felt that.
Jonathan West, the director of photography, he told me that he wanted to make sure the lighting was consistent from episode to episode. So I just assumed that that's what it was, because I hadn't really seen the previous episode yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan West is a legend in his own right. That's for sure.
Man.
So, it's always fascinating to hear people, their stories about being on set. Did it feel like a special moment for you, like something you've been waiting for forever, or were you like,
yes,
I'm always doing second unit directing, I'm doing all these other things, it's no big deal? It sounds like you're saying yes, it felt special.
Yeah, it was a really special experience, because it was a deeper probe into character, and it also revealed a dark side of Worf, where he was kind of intolerant. And
right.
There's a scene where Michael's love interest, Bael, played by Jennifer Gotti, they're in kind of a moody situation, and she's kind of coming on to him, and he's enjoying the romantic interlude. And then suddenly Michael or Worf reaches up and reveals her pointed ear and realizes that she's half Romulan. So one of the things that I wanted to do, and Jonathan was great about it, was I wanted the light to change with their mood, so that they're standing in one kind of dark corner of the set, and being very romantic, and they're romantically lit. And then as Michael makes the discovery, he steps into the shadow, so that the rest of the scene, we see Worf in profile as a silhouette. And so we can focus on Bael's reaction to her shocked reaction to Michael's attitude toward her, because she was a Romulan, and having grown up in an area where there was no enmity between the Romulans and the Klingons, that she just didn't quite understand. So I wanted the light to reinforce the story.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, because this episode had so many guest stars and very little, I feel like the regular cast outside of Michael Dorn was wasn't really prominently featured, and maybe you worked with them 1 or 2 days out of this whole 7 or 9 day shoot. What was it like having to work with so many Klingons that have never played a Klingon before? And was there a lot of catching up on the actors and kind of directing them to be, more Klingon-like?
Yes, and Klingon dialogue is difficult. It's almost Shakespearean in a way. And there was one, forget her name. No, I don't have it here.
I could check. It's not Jennifer Gotti. You mentioned her already.
The mother
who played her mother.
Yeah. Christine Rose.
That's right. Christina Rose was, I believe, was a New York actress, and she had one moment where she was having a confrontation with Worf and got very upset because of the awkwardness of the dialogue. And so she had to walk off the set for a while. So I went over to her and wanted to get her to relax and be able to do it. So I told her, well, it's great that you had this reaction because it'll get you in the perfect mood to do this scene. And we're way ahead of schedule, which was a complete lie. But to take that pressure off her, as always, we were way behind schedule. And got her a glass of water, and she was a real trooper and went back in. And I tried to explain that your feelings are exactly the arc that your character has to do, and you should feel like this at the end of the scene. And she nailed it, and take one is in the show.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, Dan, you mentioned that there are some things that you kind of wish you had changed or you wish you had done differently. Can you tell us the opposite side of that? Are there some things where you were actually really proud of? Where, besides, sounds like that was a good story there, but were there some things, I don't know if you watched it again recently, where you're like, that was pretty good. Oh, I like that shot.
Yeah, I liked despite the absence of fog, I liked the hunting scene, and I liked a scene where the commandant of the prison camp comes in, and Michael is making his bed up, and they have a confrontation. And Alan Scarf was the actor, and I thought that was a really good scene because it had really good dialogue as their relationship revealed a little bit more about how they thought about things. And their performances were great. I liked the scene where they're playing the game. We invented the Klingon hunting game with throwing the spears, and that was fun. And I liked the scene where Tak is Michael Dorn, Worf is starting to teach Mokbara to the young people in the courtyard of the prison camp, and Tak comes out and is kind of challenging him. And so Dennis Madelon, our wonderful stunt coordinator, who remains a good friend to this day, wanted to do a very elaborate thing where Worf flips him, and I felt that Worf would be able to brush him off like a fly. So I demonstrated a move where just grabbed Dennis's hand and flipped him over, and that became what was in the scene. Another thing I wish I'd done, where Worf discovers them gardening with a Gintok spear, another weapon, and actually that was inspired by the spears of the Wicked Witch's spears guards in Wizard of Oz, and
wow.
Kind of a medieval halberd cross. And Michael Dorn takes it out and explains what it was. And I thought in retrospect, I kicked myself for not having Worf do a really cool spear maneuver and kind of put it at Tak's throat, and then to show his prowess. But
because he could have done it. Michael Dorn could have done it. You worked with him and kind of trained him in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Michael was super athletic, and he picked up Tai Chi and martial arts moves very quickly.
Yeah, I also like the scene. We're mentioning scenes that we like. I like the scene where the young Klingon, you said I think it's Tak.
Yeah.
When he was, when they came back from the hunting trip, and he dropped the pig or whatever on the desk and started to sing the song. I liked that moment there. I thought it was covered well too, as far as the coverage on it. It seemed really well. He was standing in the middle of the dining hall. It was really good moment there with the song as well too, with everybody singing along. I like that.
Yeah, there's one moment in that scene that I particularly liked, is a cutaway to Worf, who just kind of looks very satisfied.
Almost like a proud father, right? He's like not quite. He's not going like, wow, he's not getting carried away. He's just like, yeah, that's right.
Well, it also shows Michael's skill as an actor, because he could communicate a lot with just a nod of his head.
He did.
He did that again, actually, in one of the last scenes where everybody, actually this scene right here, they're all gathering in front, and I'm expecting Worf to give a big, like, sigh of relief or nod of approval or see, I told you so. But he just gave the tiniest TV reaction. It's like he knows the camera will pick it up. And, I don't know if you remember any of that, if there was any kind of direction at all, but it was really nice to see him just give a tiny reaction because we already know what he's thinking. He doesn't need to give us a lot,
Well, there's a friend of mine who's an actor had the opportunity to work with Paul Newman on a movie. And he said Paul Newman gave him the best acting advice he ever had. And Mr. Newman said, never act, just behave.
Yep. Very good. Well, Dan, I wanted to ask you, this is something I've been thinking about since I first started watching this episode is, this is your one episode that you've directed. Did you ever think, boy, that was a lot of fun, I want to direct again? Or was it like, okay, I got that bug out of my system, back to everything, back to the other 40 things I'm doing?
No, I would have loved to have directed more, but the taking me away from visual effects for that long turned out to be something that the producers were unhappy about.
You were very valuable.
I can imagine. They're like, hey, this guy is very useful in these other things too. I wanted to ask you about the Uridian, because we saw the Uridian very briefly for the pickup rendezvous point at some point. Yeah. And was there more that was edited and left on the cutting floor? Because it felt like a lot to go through just to show the Uridian for like 5 seconds on screen.
Yeah, well, one of the challenges was the episode was the script was timed as 11 minutes too long. So 11, so that would have been about 11 pages. And that's a lot. So that's why it felt choppy, because we shot more than the show needed, and they worked it in the editing.
Okay, yeah, because I thought the same thing. But what I thought was James Cromwell is one of my favorite actors ever. Loved the guy. And I was like, did they really pay James Cromwell for this episode when he had no lines and he's just going like this? So I thought the same thing too. I wonder if there was more to it, but they had to cut some things out. Because I'm like, you could have just gotten, a stand-in to knock that part out. But I wanted to ask you, speaking of actors, love James Cromwell, but Richard Hurd, who has passed away a few years back, he was a wonderful man, by all accounts. I knew him and his wife pretty well, but you got to work with him. Do you have any memories of him or what he was like?
Yeah, total pro, knew his lines, and I would describe the mood I wanted, and only once did I suggest a slightly different reading of a line, and it was when he assigned Tok to guard Worf, and I said, well, maybe try it this way. We're giving a little bit more sense that he's selecting Tok on purpose, but instead of saying you guard him, he said you guard him, so that it was emphasizing Tok's responsibility for Worf, and he was so gracious about that comment, coming from a newbie, and he was just a wonderful man. And he told me he was doing something on cruise ships, which was interesting, where he had come up with a one-man show about the great director Cecil B. DeMille, and he did one-man shows on cruise ships where he would perform it a couple of times on the cruise and get a free vacation.
That's unbelievable.
That's great. You didn't really work that much with Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes in this episode?
No, they were just in the end when Worf gets back to the Enterprise.
Yeah, so it was very brief, and it might have been like a half day, like I was saying. It seemed like Worf got the the brunt of this focal point.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a
But yeah,
Worf episode.
Yeah, it was strange though that the writers did not revisit the Data storyline at all that was in part one, unless that was in it and they just cut it out. But that was a little surprising. And as you said, Dan,
yeah,
it turned into a Worf episode. The first one was Worf and
Data.
Data. The second one was very clearly all Worf. Was there anything about Data at all in the second one that got cut out?
Not much.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I wish I had known before I started was that they wanted it to feel like a bridge on the River Kwai, with a great relationship with Alec Guinness and Sesu Hayakawa.
Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, huh?
And so that would have changed how I thought about certain scenes. But
did you design the Jintok spear just for this episode, or was that something that already existed before this?
Alan Sims, the prop guy, designed it.
Oh,
But
Alan Sims.
But one of the things I wanted to make sure that the spear was balanced and throwable, so that at the balance point there's a gray section of the spear, so that the actors knew exactly where to hold it, so they could throw it correctly. And one thing, when we played the game, and where the young people were throwing the spears through the hoops, I actually did the spear throwing.
Oh, no way. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. So, Dan, we only have you for a few more minutes here. However, first, let's just go ahead and point out the elephant in the room, or the Emmys on the wall. You've won several Emmys. It's enormously impressive. Oh my God, there's even more of them hiding back there. Unbelievable. How did you get your start in Star Trek in the first place?
In Star Trek, supervising producer Peter Lorison, before that, had been VP of Paramount Television post-production. And at the time, I had worked at both modern film effects and cinema research, and done a lot of work with Peter, both in designing title sequences and creating visual effects. So when Star Trek, when they were thinking about it, Peter decided to join Star Trek and leave his VP post. And he had this idea that they needed 40 stock shots, and that would cover the series of the Enterprise entering orbit, leaving orbit. And so Peter asked me if I could do on the side storyboards for these 40 shots. So I had some pictures of the rough Enterprise model and Andy Probert's sketches for what the Enterprise would look like. And I did those 40 storyboards. And my background had been in film, and I never worked with video. And Paramount made a courageous decision to have their final master in video rather than film, to be able to do the volume of work within the time allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
by the way, this is you, real quick. This is you on set in Birthright Part 2, instructing Michael Dorn.
Well, artistic collaboration would be the correct term.
Right, of course. So I wanted to also point out this here, Dan. You emailed this a couple days ago, and so casually you said, "Oh, by the way, here's a painting I threw together. No big deal." And I was like, "Is this real? How did you do this?" And so you just kind of knocked this out recently, right? Look at this.
It started out as a detailed pencil sketch, and then I played with color.
Oh, is that it?
Wow.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah, these are what I would call stream of consciousness paintings, where they had no specific idea I wanted to work, and would just make some random lines, and as they started to look like something, I drew that too.
Wow, it's gorgeous.
It looks like a scene from an animated movie.
And then you sent, just very quickly, a few others that I think our viewers would love to see. Unused concept for Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah, so they wanted a habitat for an extinct species of sentient avians. So here I thought it would be really cool if when birds attained sentience, they would evolve nest building into architecture. So I wanted to make sure all the ergonomics were proper for birds.
Right.
That's crazy.
Krebs' Psychotropic Vision. Concept painting for a movie I was working on in Africa. Look at this.
It was a remake of Clan of the Cave Bear. And this is the psychotropic vision of a Neanderthal shaman who sees the clan totem in campfire smoke.
These are just unbelievable. Boardwalk, oil on canvas. Oh, this was 1976. Wow.
Yeah, I did that when I was living on Cape Cod.
And I think
that's Cape Cod.
Wow. Stillness at Last Light. Beautiful reflection here.
That's done
in the autumn. In the autumn on Cape Cod, there's a moment when the sea breeze changes to a land breeze, and there's about 15 minutes of absolute stillness when that's happening. And that's what I tried to capture. And I did something with the sky. Instead of painting it with opaque paint that absorbs light, I painted the sky with transparent glazes. So light would go through the transparent paint, bounce off the white canvas, and it gave the illusion of being a little bit more luminous.
Mm-hmm. And this last one, Kathmandu, do you want to tell us about this one?
I did that waiting for my trekking permit in Nepal. That was the view out of my 50-cent a day lodge. And my mom had given me a little oil painting set that was just enough paint to do that while I was waiting for the permit.
Unreal.
Yeah, while I was waiting for my permit,
I know.
Masterpiece.
I know. Oh, I just got a little painting kit real quick. I knocked this out. This was just my view out the window. You know, whatever. Well,
That's
Dan,
beautiful.
We're always shocked and impressed by you, and we're always extremely appreciative of your time. It's had to be the thrill of a lifetime. Well, maybe not your lifetime, but most of our lifetimes to direct an episode of Star Trek for you. It's just another feather in your cap, but really impressive work. Really appreciate you, Dan. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Well, I hope I was not too incoherent. So
not
we
at all.
love you, Dan. You're a legend. I still tell the story about how you made the force field with that pom-pom. So
yes.
I will never forget the legend of Dan Curry. Thanks for giving us more to cherish about your accomplishments. But this was a fantastic opportunity to showcase your directing skills on top of all the other skills.
Yeah. And the good news is we got more Star Trek coming someday. So they have your number, hopefully, and you might get that second episode someday. That would be really fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Everybody stick around. We got a lot more coverage of this glorious episode directed by Dan Curry. Oh, Dan, whose decision was it, real quick? I saw Renee Echevarria's name on one of the star charts where they're like, oh, it's over on these two planets over here, but in the corner, one of the star systems said Echevarria. Did you?
Well, there were a lot of those on all the call-outs. The art department designed those. A lot of Mike Okuda and Herman and others in the art department. And for example, behind the bridge, there's a big cross-section of the Enterprise. And if you were on the set, you would know that in the shuttle bay, there was a rubber ducky and a Porsche. And when they up-res to Blu-ray, you could read a lot of that stuff. So they took it out. They had to change something because the ones that were funny, they just the audience should. They were not intended for the audience.
All right, there's some good stories there. Anyway, thank you so much, Dan Curry. Everybody, stick around. We've got a lot more. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.